president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwunmi Adesina, has issued a sobering warning on Nigeria's economic trajectory, cautioning the country risks long-term stagnation unless it confronts its chronic infrastructure and power deficits head-on, making a keynote address at the 20th anniversary dinner of Chapel Hill Denham in Lagos. Here, let's take a look at what Dr. Akinwunmi Adesina said basically about the power issues in Nigeria. He said basically, without reliable power, Nigeria's economy will be locked in a never-ending slow growth trajectory without transformation. You cannot industrialize, you cannot compete, and you certainly cannot create jobs at scale if you don't have electricity. Joining us to discuss further, Arise business analyst Chika Mbonu, who of course will also be chipping in his thoughts on what we heard from Aliko Dangote on the urea exports to the United States. Good afternoon, morning, sir. Yeah, welcome to the show. I'll say good afternoon. Good to see you.
You're confused now.
Time zone.
You don't know where you are. You hustle from Singapore to Hong Kong to New York.
It's never ending, sir. It's never Arise coverage.
Welcome home.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. So what do you make of?
I'm going to try and wear a serious mien for this discussion.
Yes.
Because this is one of the deepest presentations I've ever seen. Very inclusive presentation I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Articulating what we know already.
Right.
About Nigeria and power.
Yeah.
This is a speech you already read out something. Had a lot of one-liners or phrases that were very powerful. Rotus, he said something. He said, the digital economy cannot thrive on diesel generators. Just imagine that,
Yeah.
So the importance of power, the impact of power on the Nigerian economy cannot be overemphasized.
Yeah.
More than 13,500 megawatts of capacity.
Yeah.
Less than one third of that, reaches in grid. You have every time, even people in primary school now know about grid failure. What's that word, the slang now? Grid collapse.
The collapse, yes.
The collapse.
Yeah.
The off-grid solutions. We're told that if you aggregate the number of self-fed power generators people have, it's about 40,000 megawatts that people have. There's some places you go to, what it just is a galaxy of, Nigeria will call it a past and neighbor generator.
Yeah.
All tied together. And so people are doing that. So, he spoke so well about our problems. Talked about the policy inaction and weak execution, which is what we know about.
Yeah.
Do you recall, Rotus, that when the Buhari regime talked about the Siemens power project, we celebrated it on this program.
Yeah.
We did. We said, let us not be, people who are calling us naysayers and wailing well at that time.
Yeah.
Let's at least celebrate this. And we did celebrate that. But you recall what the Minister of Power in this Tinubu administration said, that by the time they got into power, the fire was untouched. Nothing was being done. They just had to start afresh again.
Yeah.
So they have the issues of weak execution has been a major problem. So old infrastructure, the grids are falling. The issue of cost-reflective tariffs. By the way, to them, the so-called Band A and Band B is a scam for me. A scam from where I live. A scam. So let's put it like that.
Yeah.
So he said, access to power is not just about light. It's about productivity, competitiveness, and prosperity.
Yeah.
It's not about the fact that, which is correct. There's something new that he said, but the way he said it, with authority. Nigeria in the 1960s, was already moving towards a manufacturing country. Remember when we were assembling literally every car here in this Nigeria?
Yeah.
But we lost the manufacturing hub now to South Africa.
Yeah.
How do we manufacture it when you don't have the power?
Right.
Our SMEs are literally dead. If you want to set up any business now, whether it's bakery or hair salon or anything to anybody now, the first thing to talk about is power. How do you power the place? What generator? So if the budget is 5 million naira, about half of that will go to power. So at every educational system, the health system, the other day we saw something, not confirmed though.
Yeah.
One place somebody was lamenting that his wife died on the operating table. That while they were doing the operation, the NEPA took light.
Wow.
And then the generator couldn't come on. And the theater room using candle and whatever. And that's one. You can know how many people. A lot of babies die in the, pre-term babies die in the incubator. So health system, educational system, the business sector, SMEs, everywhere. So But they talked about the issue, again, is policy inaction and weak execution. You know, so, but I'm happy, you know, I keep saying that, you know, people should be prepared to be the chief executive of Nigeria. And for me, that's one thing that the Tinubu government, Tinubu has over Buhari. Because Tinubu has been there, as I said, I've dealt with him in the public sector, in the private sector. I know he's a smart person. He's done with targets, he's delivered targets, he's first board made presentations, he has done execution. So, I mean, let him carry that spirit of that he did in NMPC. The kind of change he made in NMPC to power. Because we require a total overhaul, as Dr. Adesina said, in power, for this country to move forward. We cannot proceed without, you know, that. I mean, we all know that already.
Fantastic. Well said. I mean, nothing more to add to that. The urea exports, what do you make of Dangote's
you know, I mean, in this program, we thought about, or we tried to explain to our viewers, all this tariff thing about, you know, and the big objective for President Trump is that he wants to domesticate manufacturing in America. He wants to improve American product, you know, because America became that country that, you know, outsource all their manufacturing to other countries, you know, principally China and other places, and then consumed a lot of imported goods. So the issue now is that if the urea is coming from Nigeria, let's say the base cost is $20 per ton, for example. So if you add 14% to it, that becomes about 22.8.
Exactly.
Okay, dollars per ton. Now, our competitor in US for US this is Algeria, and their own is 30%. So that will be about 26.
Right.
So Algeria will be landing at 26 per ton. We'll be landing at 22.8. So Dangote still has the advantage. Now that will be competing with the local manufacturing in the US. So that's basically what he's saying, that he was worried, like we said before, that our non-oil export will be affected because oil is a different thing altogether. But now our competitor is Algeria, which 30% was land on their own and lower than our 14%. Our own is 14% lower than their own. So Dangote still has an advantage. You know, in the urea,
I guess, I mean, you've talked about the Dangote refinery several times. You've been there. I mean, a lot of people are talking about how they're grateful that, you know, the refinery is there to be able to provide this type of exports to other countries. I mean, does this just bolster the point about the importance of the refinery in terms of all these other different products that we're exporting around?
Exactly. You know, I mean, you know, if you understand refining, you will find that. You know, the one that people know always is like the petrol PMS,
the PMS,
and maybe the diesel. The other, when you fracture, you find so many products coming out there, naphtha, the bitumen, and so many other products. It hasn't touched many of those products yet, and those are going to come from the refinery. As the refinery, you know, grows and expands.
Fantastic. You know. Arise business analyst Chika Mbonu, thank you so much for weighing in on the power situation and, of course, non-oil exports for Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thanks
I appreciate your time.